crises. Maybe because they had a child who had a pre-existing condition. And no matter how desperate they were, no matter what insurance company they called, they couldn't get coverage for that child. Maybe it was somebody who had been forced into early retirement, in their 50s, not yet eligible for Medicare. And they couldn't find a job. And they couldn't find health insurance, despite the fact that they had some sort of chronic condition that had to be tended to. And now we're on the threshold of doing something about it, he said to the United States Congress, Speaker Nancy Pelosi and others who were great partners in this effort. He said, and now we're on the threshold of doing something about it. We're a day away. This is aspirational leadership. After a year of debate, after every argument has been made by just about everybody, we're 24 hours away. Yeah. He said, but it may also be possible that they realize after health reform passes and I sign that legislation into law, that it's going to be a little harder to mischaracterize what this effort has been all about. Because this year, small businesses will start getting tax credits so that they can offer health insurance to employees who currently don't have it. Because this year, those same parents who are worried about getting coverage for their children with pre-existing conditions now are assured that insurance companies have to give them coverage this year. Because this year, insurance companies won't suddenly be able to drop your coverage when you get sick, or impose lifetime limits or restrictive limits on the coverage that you have. President Obama went on to say, maybe they know that this year, for the first time, young people will be able to stay on their parents' health insurance until they're 26 years old. The Affordable Care Act was a tremendous step in the right direction. It's aspirational leadership. Tens of millions of Americans now have health insurance coverage as a result of the Affordable Care Act. But this reckless Republican budget, this one big, ugly bill that President Donald Trump has directed my Republican colleagues to sign off on, to recklessly rubber stamp, and to bend the knee to, even though this bill and its assault on health care, on Medicaid, on the Children's Health Insurance Program, on Medicare, and on Obamacare will rip away health care coverage from the people my Republican colleagues are here in Washington to represent. It's extraordinary to me that as a result of this one big ugly bill, this all-out assault on health care in this country, millions of people are going to lose coverage, thrown off of health care, set in motion a chain of events where hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, people unable to get the care that they need to live a life of dignity and respect And that as a result of the all-out Republican assault on health care in the United States of America, people will die. Tens of thousands, perhaps year after year after year, as a result of the Republican assault on the health care of the American people. I'm sad. I never thought that I'd be on the House floor saying that this is a crime scene. And House Democrats want no part of it. No part of it. It's a crime scene going after the health and the safety and the well-being of the American people. And Mr. Speaker, we want no part of it, which is why we're fighting so hard to stop it. Serving in the United States Congress on this glorious floor, having to be part of a crime scene. Shameful. All-out assault on the American people. President Biden worked hard with many of the people in this Congress who still serve to try to build upon this great legacy, this journey that we've been on, set in motion in modern American presidential history by FDR, inspired by the great vision of President Truman, enhanced in years that were cut short far too early by President Kennedy, and then powered in such an extraordinary way by President Lyndon Baines Johnson. Built upon aspirationally by President Jimmy Carter. And then advanced the Children's Health Insurance Program by President Bill Clinton. Furthered in such an extraordinary way by President Barack Obama. And then built upon and enhanced by President Biden. None of us are perfect, but that's part of our march toward a more perfect union. That's part of the charge that we have as public servants, given that sacred charge in the preamble of the United States Constitution. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, leadership that tries to perfect the American journey. President Biden spoke to this in August of 2022, talked about the challenges, pushing back against special interests that are often the forces trying to stop progress on behalf of the American people. This one big, ugly bill is filled with giveaways to special interests. Here in Washington, D.C., I'm disgusted by that. It's not what lawmaking should be about. President Biden, reflecting upon the challenges of making progress on behalf of the American people, says in August of 2022, and yet we've not wavered. We've not flinched. We've not given in. Instead, we're delivering results for the American people. We didn't tear down, we built up. We didn't look back, we looked forward. This law that I'm about to sign finally delivers on a promise that Washington has made for decades to the American people. Guess what? We're giving Medicare the power to negotiate. The power to negotiate lower prices on behalf of the American people. This means seniors, President Biden goes on to say, are going to pay less for their prescription drugs, while we're changing circumstances for people on Medicare by putting a cap of a maximum of $2,000 per year on their prescription drug costs, no matter what the reason for those prescriptions are. That means if you're on Medicare, you'll never have to pay more than $2,000 a year. No matter how many prescriptions you have, whether it's for cancer or any other disease, no more than $2,000 a year. I don't care who in this town is trying to take credit for something accomplished by others. President Joseph Robinette Biden did that. He did that. He did that as part of our effort to lower costs on behalf of the American people. None of us are perfect. There's still work to do. But the 46th President of the United States of America did that. Inflation Reduction Act, he went on to say, locks in lower health care premiums for millions of families who get their coverage under the Affordable Care Act. Last year, a family of four saved on average $2,400 through the American Rescue Plan that I signed into law that Congress voted in place. President Biden's talking about the continuation of our march toward a more perfect union, the work that we in this Congress, many of us who had the privilege to serve over the last few years, did to try to expand and strengthen the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, by enhancing the premium tax credits available so that millions of additional Americans would actually have the ability to get access to health care. And in this one big, ugly bill, Republicans are setting in motion the explosion of those tax credits that are designed to provide affordable health care coverage to the American people. Leadership requires courage, conviction, compassion. And yet what we've seen from this administration and its co-conspirators on the Republican side of the aisle, Mr. Speaker, is cruelty, chaos, and corruption. And it's all been morphed into a toxic mix now contained in Donald Trump's one big ugly bill. An extraordinary assault on the health care of the American people. I mentioned earlier, Mr. Speaker, that taken to the House floor to share stories from the American people. Stories that are too numerous to articulate in the time available to us in connection with debating this bill. But I'm going to do my best to make sure that we have a representative sample of why so many Americans all across this country went to bed in fear and are now waking up in horror because Republicans are trying to jam this one big ugly bill down the throats of the American people. An assault on health care, an assault on nutritional assistance, an assault on children, an assault on veterans, an assault on farmers, an assault on everyday Americans. Crystal, who's also from the great state of Alaska, said that after my husband passed away suddenly, I was unprepared to pay all the bills as a part-time stay-at-home mom, and working part-time while my young girls were in school. I applied for SNAP benefits. And was so thankful I received them, for it helped me so much. And I was so thankful it put food on our table. I didn't have to worry about how I was going to buy groceries while paying the other bills I had to take care of. The SNAP program has helped me many times, and through those times, I was struggling financially. And so I'm so thankful it was there when I needed it most. I am no longer on the program, but it was one of the biggest blessings in my life. During those hard years after my loss, thank you to the government for helping me. We all need help at times in life. And I think this program should remain available to those who really need it, who are struggling. Thank you, Crystal, for sharing your story with us. Mr. Speaker, Talise wrote to us, lives in Alabama's 5th Congressional District, a district currently represented by Dale Strong. So thankful for the representation of my good friends Terry Sewell and Shamari Figures in the great state of Alabama. Talise writes to us, I'm a single mom doing everything with my one income. My ex-husband refuses to pay child support or split the cost of anything related to my daughter. If it wasn't for SNAP, we'd probably have very little in terms of food because I am always running on E. I'm so beyond grateful for the assistance. Curtis writes to us, Mr. Speaker, from the great state of Arizona. In my disabled senior status, I would be in a dire nutritional status, if not mostly for the SNAP nutritional assistance, a godsend. For so many Americans, that is what SNAP has been, a godsend in a time of need. And now the nutritional assistance benefits will be ripped away from millions of Americans in Donald Trump's one big ugly bill, a bill that Republicans are prepared to recklessly rubber stamp. You also heard from Diana, great state of California. Diana writes, SNAP has helped my family tremendously during this difficult time. We really appreciate all the help. My husband was diagnosed with cancer, and we have a little one at home. It's been difficult taking care of everything. Please keep this benefit to help people get on their feet. Diana lives in the Inland Empire, California's 33rd congressional district, represented by the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus, Pete Aguilar. Diana, Pete Aguilar is fighting hard for you. Just like every single House Democrat are fighting hard for the American people to protect you as best we can from this cruel assault on nutritional assistance. We're going to continue to fight hard for you. In Ohio, Julie writes to us, I'm so thankful for Amelia Sykes, Marcy Kaptur. Marcy Kaptur is the original gangster of the Ohio delegation. The longest serving woman in the history of the United States Congress, fighting hard on behalf of the people she incredibly represents. Along with Amelia and Shontel Brown and Greg Landsman, and of course, y'all know I couldn't leave out my big sister Joyce Beatty. I wanted to mention Joyce because this is part of the resilience of what we've seen from House Democrats, from Brittany Pedersen, distinguished gentlelady from the great state of Colorado, who gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, Sam, at the beginning of this year. But because House Republicans, Mr. Speaker, have refused to allow proxy voting, virtual voting, for expectant mothers and new mothers throughout this year, shortly after giving birth, Congresswoman Brittany Pedersen, each and every week, often with her baby boy, Sam, has come to the United States Congress to stand with House Democrats in defense of the American people. And she did it in connection with that first vote that set this whole disgusting abomination into motion in February, that same day. That same day, Kevin Mullen showed up to vote on behalf of the American people. Just like all of us continue to do, Kevin Mullen showed up to vote despite the fact that he had been experiencing multiple surgeries, was dealing with some complications. But he understood, just like all House Democrats understand, the need to stand up in this moment and fight hard for the American people, the need to be here throughout this entire toxic journey that Republicans have set us on. Connection with this one big, ugly bill. Kevin Mullen, coming off of multiple surgeries, rolled out of his hospital bed, got on a plane from Northern California, took his wife with him so that she could change his IV on the plane across the country to be here and stand with his sisters and brothers in the House Democratic Caucus family to push back against this one big ugly bill. I was so thankful, so appreciative to see the great Joyce Beatty, who's been battling some issues, working her way through them, putting off surgeries for as long as she could. And yet, perhaps against some of the advice that she may have received, understood, as she said in her own words, the importance of being here on behalf of the American people, to stand up and push back against Trump's one big ugly bill, because it will have devastating consequences for everyday Americans. Thank you, Joyce Beatty, for your courage, your strength, and your resilience on behalf of the people that you represent in the great state of Ohio and people all across the country. That's what we do as House Democrats, and you're leading by example. And I could tell stories about every single one of us who in this moment recognizes that we have to keep rising to the occasion because of the extraordinary assault that has been launched against the American people by Donald Trump and complete Republican control here in Washington. Let's understand who is doing you in. People on the other side of the aisle. It's not too late. All we need are 4 Republicans to join us, to show John McCain levels of courage. Not on the battlefield, as he did in such an extraordinary way. And yes, Mr. President, John McCain was an American hero and patriot. An American hero and patriot. I may have disagreed with him on a whole host of issues, We cannot disagree with the fact that he was an American patriot and a war hero who served this country overseas. And then he came back home after being a POW year after year after year. And got elected to the United States House of Representatives. Did I get that right, y'all? To the United States House of Representatives. Just making sure y'all are paying attention. All good things start in the United States House of Representatives, as far as we're concerned. And then he went over to the Senate. And then in one of his final acts of courage, he pushed back against the effort to rip away health care from millions of Americans. All we need is 4 Republicans to show John McCain levels of courage when it comes to protecting the health, the safety, and the well-being of the American people, protecting the nutritional assistance of the American people. I think earlier today, I may have neglected to mention the leadership of Jim McGovern, who's done an extraordinary job leading the charge on the Rules Committee as we've pushed back against this all-out assault on the American people. Hour after hour after hour after hour, Jim McGovern, the members of the Rules Committee, and so many members of the House Democratic Caucus pushing amendment after amendment, debating hard against this one big ugly bill on behalf of the American people. Jim McGovern, of course, longtime champion for combating hunger in the United States of America. So thankful for Jim's resilience and his strength, even in the face of great tragedy. Continues to battle hard on behalf of the American people. Julie writes, SNAP has been an amazing help to my family. Very grateful to receive it. I'm a single mom of twin 13-year-old girls. I've been on my own with my girls since they were 1 and have never received child support. I do work. People who receive Medicaid work. People who receive SNAP work. So some people in this town need to stop lying to the American people. Mr. Speaker, I said some people in this town need to stop lying to the American people. Julie said, I do work. But don't make enough money to cover all my expenses. It's a big misunderstanding that people on SNAP don't have jobs. My children would eat very poorly if I didn't have SNAP. I would have to rely on church food pantries, and they could only offer the bare minimum. The food banks don't give basics like milk and bread. That's Julie's experience. Mr. Speaker, she lives in Ohio's 14th Congressional District, represented by our colleague, Congressman David Joyce. We heard from Mark from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Mark says, I've collected Medicaid and SNAP benefits for over a decade now. I may well have found myself in a worse place if not for these programs. Giving freely and charitably is the way of Jesus. Reverend Cleaver, some people in this chamber need to hear those words again. Yeah. Giving freely and charitably is the way of Jesus. That's someone who's talking like a Matthew 25 and 35 Christian. SNAP and Social Security benefits have been life-saving for me. They literally keep me alive. I suffer from severe depression, anxiety, OCD, and have Asperger's. This is why I'm on Social Security and SNAP. I believe that everyone should have access to these benefits. And in an ideal world, our communities would be centered around love, harmony, and the protection of each other. That's real love. Not fake love like promising to love and cherish Medicaid and then turning around and presiding over the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, which is what Donald Trump's one big ugly bill represents. Mark says, I believe that everyone should have access to these benefits. And in an ideal world, our communities would be centered around love, harmony, and the protection of each other. That's the kind of leadership that this country needs and deserves right now, but that's the kind of leadership it's not getting from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Mr. Speaker, Mark lives in Pennsylvania's 1st Congressional District. I believe that district is represented by our colleague, Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick. I want to ask the question, what happened earlier today? How was it that a few hours ago, several of my Republican colleagues had principled opposition to Donald Trump's one big ugly bill? Several hours ago, how is it that so many of our Republican colleagues, Mr. Speaker, had principled opposition to Donald Trump's one big ugly bill? Either because of the devastating assault on Medicaid, health care, supplemental nutritional assistance, assault on veterans, assault on clean energy jobs, assault on the cost of living, which is represented in this bill, or because of the assault on the fiscal irresponsibility of a bill that will explode the deficit, increase the debt by trillions of dollars, send us on a death spiral potentially as it relates to our economy. How is it, Mr. Speaker, that so many of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle had principled opposition just a few hours ago and now seem prepared to fold on the floor of the House of Representatives? Don't you have some responsibility, Mr. Speaker, to say to the American people what happened? What deals were cut? What occurred in the back room? It will all come out one way or the other, Mr. Speaker. Incredible to me that this Congress is on the verge of ripping food out of the mouths of children, veterans, and seniors as a result of this one big, ugly bill in order to reward billionaires with massive tax breaks and exploding the debt in the process. I mentioned earlier in my remarks that as House Democrats, we envision a different country than the one that is being ravaged by such extremism right now. Imagine a country where every single American can afford to live the good life. Good paying job, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement. Work hard, play by the rules, live the good life. That's the America that we should be working hard right now to bring about for every single American. But we know there are far too many Americans in this country struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That should not be the case in this great country. The wealthiest country in the history of the world, a country that has become far too expensive for far too many people. Donald Trump promised to lower the high cost of living on day one. He made that promise to the American people. Made that promise, hadn't happened on day one, hasn't happened on month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 6. It's not happening. Mr. Speaker, costs aren't going down. Costs are going up in the United States of America. Life is becoming more expensive. And it seems to me that in this great country, this Congress should be working hard to build an affordable economy for hardworking American taxpayers. That's our plan. That's our vision. That's our goal as House Democrats, an affordable economy for hardworking American taxpayers. But Donald Trump's one big ugly bill will make life more expensive for the American people. Lynette wrote to us. She's also a resident of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. She said, I'm a single mom of 3 girls. Although my 2 older girls are out of the home, they and I struggle I work full time, but it's not enough to get by. Without the help of SNAP and Section 8, I would not be able to afford anything. I sacrifice every day so my daughters can have food and a place to come home and call home. I get $124 a month in food stamps. $124 a month in food stamps, which isn't enough as food prices keep going up. With the little help I do get from the government, I am grateful and blessed. Last year, I passed out after a church service and was rushed to the hospital. I didn't have any insurance at this time, but I was treated. However, I could not pay back the services that I received, and I still need treatments. I have been choosing to pay for rent and food, but I have these bills and other appointments that I need to go to but don't have the extra money, and I don't qualify for Medicare, don't make enough to get insurance on the marketplace for insurance. Lynette, without the help of SNAP and Section 8, I would not be able to afford anything. Mr. Speaker, Lynette resides in Pennsylvania's 7th congressional district, a district represented by our colleague, Congressman Ryan McKenzie. Wendy writes to us from the Commonwealth of Virginia. Says that I am a single mother of 2 children, and due to bone cancer, I now live with a disability and am unable to work. I have not only survived cancer, but my children and I also survived domestic abuse. I have been making ends meet while not working or receiving any child support for almost 2 years. To my family, SNAP is literally life or death. And while I hope that one day my circumstances will improve to the point that I will not need the assistance for now, Wendy tells us, it is our lifesaver. That's what these safety net programs represent. Lifesavers for Americans in need. And instead of protecting these life-saving programs, these life-sustaining programs, what we see from this one big ugly bill is that nutritional assistance for the American people will be decimated. And as a result, millions of Americans, our fellow Americans, are at risk of going hungry. That is not right in the United States of America. It's not right. And that is why we're fighting hard for people like Wendy, who, Mr. Speaker, lives in Virginia's 5th Congressional District, a district represented by Congressman John McGuire. Jamie, from the great state of Wisconsin, the heartland, part of the heartland of the United States of America, the magical Midwest, the hardworking people of the great state of Wisconsin. I was privileged to just be there this past weekend. Jamie said, I work, I am a single mom. I need help to feed my kids. All the bills have skyrocketed. I'm doing this on my own. Please don't take away SNAP. That's a plea that I think is being heard all across this land. Please don't take away SNAP. It's a lifesaver. It's being ripped away from the American people as part of this Republican effort, Mr. Speaker, to provide massive tax breaks for billionaires. Jamie is represented. She lives in the 3rd Congressional District of Wisconsin, currently represented, Mr. Speaker, by Congressman Derek Van Orden. Healthcare under assault. Nutritional assistance under assault. Farmers in this country have also been under assault. One of the reasons why so many Americans are cynical about our politics of the moment is that there are people who run for office, they say one thing and then they do the exact opposite. And many of the policies that we've seen come out of the Trump administration are inconsistent with the rhetorical promises that were made on the campaign trail. Donald Trump and House Republicans promising to look out for people in farm country, and then supporting policies that do the exact opposite. April is from Iowa. Says that 4th-generation farmer on land her family has worked for almost 125 years in north-central Iowa. And then says, if there's all this uncertainty out there, how can we plan? We need a path forward. It's like changing a tire while we're still driving down the road. That's what our farmers are being asked to do, change a tire while they're still driving down the road because of the uncertainty that has been unleashed by an administration far too focused on chaos, cruelty, and corruption. Those are my words. April goes on to say, we're kind of holding our breath for this fall. That's when it will hurt the most farmers. We need trade with Mexico and Canada too. That's why I think the reciprocal tariffs are going to hurt us more. We get fertilizer from Canada. We get parts and products made in Mexico. As House Democrats, we're focused on creating more good-paying jobs, on economic strategies that make sense, that are designed to lift up the American people. But I can't find anything in this 900-plus page bill that is actually designed to permanently sustain a positive trajectory for farmers in this country and for everyday Americans. In fact, the chaotic uncertainty of the economic policies that have been unleashed by the Trump administration and complete Republican rule in Washington, D.C., will have devastating consequences for the American people and for farmers like April. John writes to us from the great state of North Carolina. He says to us, not many families can say this, black families, that is, but we've been here for over 100 years. My great-grandfather, my grandfather on both sides, and my father were all farmers. Honestly, I cannot understand it. I have not heard anybody from that administration that could tell me anything that makes any sense of what he's causing. John further writes, you cannot take a chainsaw and do surgery. I'm going to plant about 50% less than I would normally because I don't know what the price is going to be. I don't want to take the risk of putting even more out there. What we've seen from the Trump administration, from this so-called DOGE effort, and from our Republican colleagues, Mr. Speaker, is deeply troubling. Republicans are trying to take a chainsaw to Social Security, a chainsaw to Medicare, a chainsaw to Medicaid, a chainsaw to the health care of the American people, a chainsaw to nutritional assistance for hungry children, a chainsaw to farm country, and a chainsaw to vulnerable Americans. But as House Democrats, we're here to make clear, Mr. Speaker, we're determined to take a chainsaw to Project 2025. A chainsaw, a chainsaw, a chainsaw to Project 2025 on behalf of the American people. We don't want this country to go backward. We want this country to go forward. And so no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, we're going to take a chainsaw to your Project 2025. That's what we're prepared to do. Thank you, John, from North Carolina. one last farmer whose voice I want to elevate at this moment. And then I'd like to have a discussion about, anchored around some of the things that our Republican colleagues, Mr. Speaker, have said during this entire process. Correspondence that has been written by Republicans as it relates to this one big ugly bill. Correspondence that I'm struggling to understand now, because it appears that almost every single House Republican is prepared to recklessly rubber stamp Donald Trump's extreme agenda and sign off on this one big ugly bill. So I'm going to go through some of the correspondence momentarily that maybe at some point our Republican colleagues can help us figure out.